However, as rumors about him were growing and becoming more widespread, I decided to try and see this stranger myself, and I began to hunt regularly in the neighborhood of his grounds. For a long time, I watched without finding an opportunity. At last it came to me in the shape of a partridge, which I shot and killed right in front of the Englishman. My dog fetched it for me, but taking the bird, I went at once to John Rowell and, begging his pardon, asked him to accept it. He was a big man with red hair and beard, very tall, very broad, a kind of calm and polite Hercules. He had nothing of the so-called British stiffness, and in a broad English accent he thanked me warmly for my attention. At the end of a month, we had 5 or 6 conversations. One night, at last, I was passing before his door, and I saw him in the garden, seated astride a chair, smoking his pipe. I bowed, and he invited me to come in and have a glass of beer. I needed no urging. He received me with the most punctilious English courtesy, sang the praises of France and of Corsica, and declared he was quite in love with this country. Then, with great caution and under the guise of vivid interest, I asked him a few questions about his life and his plans. He answered without embarrassment, telling me that he had traveled a great deal in Africa, in the Indies, in America.
I have had many adventures.
Then I turned the conversation on hunting, and he gave me the most curious details on hunting the hippopotamus, the tiger, the elephant, and even the gorilla. I said, "Are all these animals dangerous?"
Oh no, man is the worst.
Then he began to talk about weapons, and he invited me to come in and see different makes of guns. His parlor was draped in black silk embroidered in gold. Big yellow flowers, as brilliant as fire, were worked on the dark material.
It is a Japanese material.
But in the middle of the widest panel, a strange thing attracted my attention. A black object stood out against a square of red velvet. I went up to it. It was a hand, a human hand. Not the clean white hand of a skeleton, but a dried black hand with yellow nails, the muscles exposed and traces of old blood on the bones, which were cut off as clean as though it had been chopped off with an axe near the middle of the forearm. Around the wrist, an enormous iron chain, riveted and soldered to his unclean member, fastened it to the wall by a ring, strong enough to hold an elephant in leash. I asked, "What is that?"
I've also frequently been manhunting. That is my best enemy. It comes from America too. The bones were severed by a sword, and the skin cut off with a sharp stone and dried in the sun for a week.
I touched these human remains, which must have belonged to a giant. The uncommonly long fingers were attached by enormous tendons, which still had pieces of skin hanging to them in places. His hand was terrible to see. It made one think of some savage vengeance. This man must have been very strong.
Yes, but I was stronger than he. I put on this chain to hold him.
I thought that he was joking. I said, "This chain is useless now. The hand won't run away." John Rowell answered seriously.
It always wants to go away. This chain is needed.
I glanced at him quickly, questioning his face. And I asked myself, is he an insane man or an impractical joker? But his face seemed inscrutable, calm and friendly. I turned to other subjects and admired his rifles. However, I noticed that he kept 3 loaded revolvers in the room, as though constantly in fear of some attack. I paid him several calls. Then I did not go anymore. People had become used to his presence. Everybody had lost interest in him.